I was still out in the desert when the divorce papers showed up in my inbox. 13 years of marriage wrapped up neatly in a PDF. Name's Ethan. I'm 42, a staff sergeant with the 82nd Airborne Division. I'd been stationed in Kandahar for about 4 months when Rachel decided she'd waited long enough. The email subject line said, "Let's be adults about this." Real clinical. The body of the message was just 3 short lines. She'd already filed everything. The joint account? Wiped clean. And just to drive it home, she'd already moved her new guy, Trevor, into our house back in Spokane. I read it twice, shut the laptop without a word, and went to rinse off in the shared showers. After that, I threw on my uniform, headed out for my shift, and didn't say a single thing to anyone. That night, when I finally made it back to my bunk, I sent a one-word reply. Understood. That was all I said. No fighting. No begging her to reconsider. No threats or drama. Just one word. Harper, my bunkmate, must have picked up on something. He looked up from his book just enough to ask, "You good, man?" without really looking at me. "Yeah," I said. "Just stuff going on back home." He gave a small nod and went back to reading. That was the end of it. Guys in the military, we know when to give space. Honestly, I wasn't all that shocked. Things had been different for a while, about 6 months before I shipped out. Before I continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new and interesting stories. Put likes, but back to the story. Little things started adding up. Rachel stopped asking how my day was, started working late more often at the dental office where she handled the phones. Suddenly, she was hitting the gym a few times a week, but never came home sweaty. She bought new clothes, started hanging out with people I'd never met, and locked her phone with a passcode I didn't know. I didn't call her out, didn't start spying or digging through her stuff. That's just not who I am. But I'm not a fool either. I noticed. So I made some quiet preparations of my own. Nothing flashy, just small steps in case things went sideways. I rented a storage unit across town and tucked away all the important stuff. My birth certificate, our marriage license, the house deed with only my name on it. Thanks to the VA loan and my military paperwork, that part was easy. I even stashed my granddad's old watch and my mom's silver in there. Things that actually meant something. I also set up a separate bank account at a different place entirely. Started routing a portion of my pay there. Not enough to raise eyebrows, just enough so I wouldn't be flat broke if things turned south. The night I left for deployment, Rachel hugged me at the airport. Told me, "Stay safe, okay?" Her voice was calm, and her eyes were dry, like she was saying goodbye to someone she barely knew. I probably should have seen it coming right then and there. Still, a part of me wanted to believe I was wrong. I wasn't. What Rachel didn't realize was that I'd already started getting ready for this outcome. And what she never understood about me is that I don't go looking for fights. But if one lands on my doorstep, I know how to end it. I first met Rachel at a friend's backyard cookout in 2010. I was between deployments, crashing at my buddy Dylan's place in Spokane. She was wrapping up nursing school back then, but ended up taking an admin job at a dental office instead. Said it was less stressful. We got married 8 months later. Rachel used to say she was proud of my service, though I don't think she ever really got what it meant. Her dad was a bank manager, and her brother worked as a pharmacist. No military folks in her family. She'd sometimes ask when I planned on getting a real job, not realizing that after 15 years, the Army wasn't some temporary gig. It was my career. In 2014, we bought a house. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. 3 bedrooms, a small patch of yard, quiet neighborhood. The mortgage was in my name, VA loan and all, but I added her to the deed. That's what you do when you're married. You share things. My dad passed away a year after we tied the knot. Heart gave out while he was shoveling snow. Mom died 3 years later. Lung cancer, even though she'd never touched a cigarette in her life. They left me a bit of money. Not a jackpot, but enough for Rachel and me to pay off her student loans and still have a little safety net. I deployed 4 times while we were married. Twice to Iraq, twice to Afghanistan. Every time I came back, Rachel seemed a little more checked out. A little more like she was stuck in a part she didn't want to play anymore. "I didn't sign up to be a military wife," she told me once, after I mentioned re-upping for another 4 years. "I'm tired of being alone all the time." And I got that. I really did. But the Army? It's the only place I ever truly felt like I fit. I was good at what I did. People counted on me. By 2019, though, things started shifting. It started off as little stuff. Rachel would get short with me when I called during her girls' nights. Then she started bringing up her friend Claire, how she dumped her husband and was living her best life now. Not long after, Rachel began dropping hints that we didn't really have much in common anymore. I suggested maybe we try counseling. She brushed it off, said we were fine, that it was just a rough patch. But then came those long hours at work and weekend getaways with friends I'd never even heard of, let alone met. She bought new clothes, signed up for a gym she barely used. I should have called her out, asked the hard questions. But that's not how I operate. Never has been. My dad raised me to keep a cool head, to think before speaking, to be sure before making a move. So I watched, quietly, and I started making preparations because something in my gut was telling me this wasn't just a phase. And in this life, if you've got any sense, you learn to trust your gut. 2 weeks after that email, I was sitting in the mess hall with a tray of food when my phone buzzed. A notification from our bank. Another withdrawal. This one hit hard. $8,500. Basically everything we had left. I set down my fork and pulled up the app. The joint account was down to a sad $212.37. Our savings, the $47,000 we'd worked years to build, was gone. Transferred out to an account I didn't recognize. Murphy, a guy in my unit, glanced over. Bad news. I locked my phone. Nah, just some account stuff. Later that night, I made my way to the phone center on base and called the bank. They told me Rachel had been slowly draining our accounts for weeks. It started with small amounts, but after I deployed, the big transfers began. I hung up and just stood in the hallway, staring at nothing for a long while. Around me, guys were calling their kids, their wives, their parents. Joking, laughing, catching up with life back home. My life, meanwhile, felt like it was unraveling right there under the harsh fluorescent lights. That's when Harper found me. I heard from Reyes, "You look like a damn ghost at dinner," he said. "What's going on?" I don't usually open up. Not about personal stuff. But Harper had once pulled me out of a real bad spot back in Kandahar. I trusted him. My wife cleaned out our accounts, I said. Moved her boyfriend into our house. Sent divorce papers while I was out on patrol last week. Harper didn't bother with any of the usual sympathy lines. "No, man, I'm sorry." Or "That's rough." Or "You'll find someone better." He just asked, "What's your plan?" "Not sure yet," I told him. He gave a quiet nod. "Let me know if you need anything." I couldn't sleep that night. So I fired up my laptop and logged into our home security system, something I figured Rachel had probably forgotten I could access remotely. The footage showed a truck I didn't recognize parked in the driveway. A man I'd never seen walking my dog, drinking from my coffee mug, wearing my Seahawks hoodie. Rachel was there too, laughing in the kitchen. I'd remodeled myself on my last leave. Something inside me clicked. Not rage, something colder, more focused. I closed the laptop, picked up my phone, and started a list. Colin, Army buddy turned lawyer. Check VA loan terms. Call Master Sergeant about emergency leave. Review home refinance docs Rachel had mentioned offhand months ago. Lock down military pension accounts. I wasn't upset anymore. Not even angry. I was locked in, focused, like I was planning a mission. At 0500, right before my shift, I sent Colin an email. Need legal help. Discreet and urgent. He replied within the hour. Call me. Secure line only. By the time I hung up that call, I had a plan. No yelling. No threats. No dramatic confrontations. Just patience. All I had to do was watch her dig the hole a little deeper. 2 months later, I was back stateside. I didn't tell Rachel I was coming. Didn't call. Didn't text. I checked into a cheap motel in downtown Spokane under a different name. Then I got in touch with Colin. We met at a diner a few miles outside the city. "You look like hell," he said, sliding into the booth. "Feel like it too," I replied. He handed me a folder. Everything we talked about. House docs, bank records. Then he pulled out a separate sheet. "Found something interesting while digging around your finances," he said. It was a refinance application with my name on it. Or at least, it looked like it was. The signature wasn't quite mine. The middle initial was wrong. The strokes weren't how I write. Someone had tried to fake it, but didn't nail the details. Rachel did this? I asked, even though deep down, I already knew the answer. Colin gave a slow nod. Yeah, 3 months back. She used the home's equity to pull out 30 grand. Since the VA loan is under your name alone, your signature was required. So she forged my name, I said, almost to myself. She fakes my signature, takes out a loan against the house, wipes our accounts clean, and serves me divorce papers while I'm still overseas. I let out a breath. She's been busy. Oh, it gets better, Colin said, with the kind of grim expression lawyers wear when they've seen too much. She listed her boyfriend as a co-applicant on the refinance. Problem is, he's got a record, 2 DUIs, and a fraud conviction back in 2019. I sat back in my seat and took a long breath through my nose. What kind of options do I have here? Well, Colin said, folding his hands, you've got a few. But first, you need to figure out what outcome you're after. I thought for a minute. I want what's legally mine, I said. And I want her to understand that actions have consequences. Colin gave a tight smile. Then here's what we're going to do. The next day, I drove by the house. Her boyfriend's truck wasn't there, but Rachel's car was in the driveway. I parked a little ways down the street and just sat there for a while, watching. Thought about walking up to the front door, letting her see me, watch her face when she opened it. But that wasn't part of the plan. Instead, I went to the bank. Sat down with the loan officer who'd handled the refinance. Showed him my military ID, then my driver's license with my actual signature. Pulled out the forged documents and laid them side by side. The guy went pale like he'd seen a ghost. "I'll have to report this right away," he said. "I understand," I told him. "Just so you know, I've already filed a police report." That night, Rachel texted me. "Who have you been talking to at the bank?" Trevor said someone was asking questions. I didn't reply. The next morning, I went down to the county clerk's office. Filed paperwork contesting the refinance, citing fraud. Also filed a formal restriction. No changes to the property could be made without me being physically present. No more surprise sales. 2 days later, my phone rang. "Rachel." I let it go to voicemail. "Ethan, we need to talk," her voice said, trying to sound calm. "The bank called about the house." "What are you doing?" "If this is about the divorce, we can discuss it. Like adults." Same line she used in the subject of that email. "Let's be adults about this." Still, I didn't respond. Later that afternoon, Colin called. "They froze the money from the refinance," he said. "And there's more. Your wife's boyfriend, he's been driving your truck, right?" "Yeah," I said. "It's still in my name." "Well, he got pulled over this morning, driving on a suspended license from those old DUIs. They impounded the vehicle." I smiled. "Good. And they found something interesting inside the truck." I frowned. "Like what?" "Prescription pads," Colin said. "From the dental office where Rachel works. And they weren't blank." I shut my eyes and rubbed my temples. "She's been stealing prescription pads?" "Looks like it. Police are looking into it." I sat there on the edge of the motel bed, staring at the wall. This was spiraling way beyond anything I expected. A part of me wanted to pick up the phone and warn her, old instincts. But then I remembered the security footage. My house. My dog. My life, repurposed like it was hers to give away. No. This was the course now. I couldn't steer off it. Truth be told, I didn't want to. The next morning, I met with the bank's fraud investigator. Name was Morris. Short guy, looked like he hadn't slept much, and had a coffee stain right across his tie. "This sort of thing happens more than you'd think," he said as he spread out the documents across his cluttered desk. "One spouse deploys, the other sees a window of opportunity." "So what happens now?" I asked. "We've frozen the refinance funds, but there's a hitch. Some of it's already been spent." "How much are we talking?" "About half," he said. "Roughly $14,600. I leaned in. "Where did it go?" Morris shifted uncomfortably. "Technically, I'm not supposed to disclose that. My house was used. My signature was forged. My accounts were drained," I said, locking eyes with him. "You can make an exception." After a moment, he nodded, then turned his screen toward me. "These are the outgoing transfers from the refinance account." I scanned the names on the list. One name stood out. Multiple transfers to someone named Logan Barrett. Not Trevor. Someone completely new. "Who's Logan Barrett?" I asked. Morris shrugged. "Not my department. You'll want your attorney to subpoena those records." As soon as I left the building, I called Colin. "Logan Barrett?" he repeated. "Let me dig around." An hour later, he rang me back. "Found him. He's a real estate agent. Specializes in fast, cash-only home sales." "She was getting ready to sell the house," I said, the weight of that realization hitting like a punch to the chest. "Looks that way," Colin replied. "Those transfers were probably earnest deposits to get him moving on listing the property." Then his tone shifted. "Here's the kicker, Barrett's done business with Trevor Miles before." "Trevor Miles? That's the boyfriend?" "Yep. They've closed 3 real estate deals together in the past 2 years." I found a bench in a nearby park and sat down, trying to piece it all together. So this wasn't just Rachel leaving me for some other guy. This was something bigger. A plan. Maybe even a scam. "Looks like this was more than just a bad breakup," I said. "Yeah," Colin replied cautiously. And I started looking into Trevor Miles. "Turns out the guy's got a pattern," Colin said. "He targets women going through divorces or with deployed spouses. I found 3 cases already. Same setup every time." He slid a folder across the table. I flipped it open. Photos, notes, timelines. The woman's house gets sold way under market value, usually to one of Barrett's clients. Trevor gets a cut, then he disappears and moves on to the next one. I exhaled slowly. "And Rachel?" "She knew." Colin shrugged. "Hard to say. Maybe she got roped in like the others. Or maybe she's been in on it from the start." I rubbed my face, trying to make sense of it all. This had gone way past just my marriage falling apart. It wasn't personal anymore. It was a pattern. A scam. And other military families had been caught in the same trap. "So what do we do now?" I asked. "I already contacted the FBI's Financial Crimes Division," Colin said. This crosses state lines, involves military personnel and VA loans. They're paying attention. That night, I sat alone in my motel room with a beer, the bottle sweating in my hand. I kept wondering, had Rachel been playing me all along? Or did she just get pulled into something bigger than she understood? Did it even matter anymore? My phone buzzed. Another message from her. Ethan, please call me. The bank's talking about fraud. And Trevor got arrested for driving your truck. I don't understand what's happening. I stared at the screen for a long while before typing back. Who is Logan Barrett? The three dots popped up, vanished, came back, disappeared again. Then finally, I don't know what you're talking about. I typed again. $14,600. Multiple transfers. House listing. Silence for 10 minutes. Then her reply came. It's not what you think. I turned off the phone and set it face down on the nightstand. I didn't need more lies tonight. The next morning, Colin called. FBI wants to meet. They've been investigating Miles and Barrett for a while now. You're not the first, but your case might be the one that cracks it open. For the first time since that divorce email, I felt something close to relief. Not because the marriage was over, but because the truth was finally surfacing. I met with two agents at their Spokane field office, Agent Navarro and Agent Reed. Straightforward types. No frills. They recorded my statement, collected every document Colin and I had dug up. Your case helps establish a clear pattern, Navarro explained. It points to intent, organized behavior. That makes this a conspiracy much more serious than one-off incidents. What about Rachel? I asked. She's my ex-wife now. The two agents exchanged a glance. We're still evaluating her role, Reed said. Did she ever talk about money trouble? Say anything about needing to sell the house? I thought back. She kept saying we were house poor. Always talking about how we should downsize. But our mortgage was fine. We weren't struggling. Navarro scribbled something down. When did that start? Maybe 6 months ago? Around when she must have met Trevor. She never mentioned refinancing. Just went behind my back and forged my name. They asked more questions, filling page after page with notes. When we finished, Navarro handed me her card. We'll be in touch. And for now, don't confront your ex or Trevor. We need to build this case carefully. I nodded. Understood. That evening, I drove past the house again. Parked in the same spot a few houses down. Trevor's truck was back in the driveway, must have gotten it out of the impound. Rachel's car wasn't there. Then my phone buzzed. We need to talk. In person. Meet me at Riverfront Park tomorrow. I'll explain everything. It's about the money. The next morning over breakfast, I showed the text to Colin. Don't go, he said without hesitation. Nothing good's going to come from talking to her right now. I know, I replied. I don't plan to. But I do want to see what she's up to while she thinks I'm heading to meet her. So we drove to the house around 9:30 a.m. parked across the street. At 9:45, Rachel walked out, got into her car, and drove off, heading straight toward Riverfront Park. Now what? Colin asked. Now we wait. About 20 minutes later, a car rolled up to the curb. Company logo on the side. Real estate agency. Logan Barrett. Trevor stepped out of the house to greet him like they were old friends. The two stood in the driveway for a moment, then went inside. Should we follow them? Colin asked. I shook my head. No need. I installed security cameras last year. Inside and out. They back up to the cloud. Colin raised his eyebrows. You never mentioned that before. Never came up, I said, pulling out my phone. I opened the app and turned the screen so he could see. There they were, Barrett and Trevor in my living room. Barrett was taking photos. Trevor was gesturing around the room like he was giving a tour. They were prepping to sell the house, my house, right out from under me. And they had no idea I was watching every move. I turned up the volume on the camera feed. Should be listed by the end of the week, Barrett was saying. I've already got a buyer lined up. Cash deal, as usual. How much? Trevor asked. We list for 70, Barrett replied. He offers 20. Everybody walks away happy. Trevor let out a low whistle. And the husband? Rachel says he's starting to make noise. Barrett shrugged it off. Military guys are all the same. Big on talk, but they've got deployments, careers, other priorities. He'll settle to keep things simple. I looked at Colin. You getting all this? He held up his phone, already recording the live feed. Every second. I forwarded the camera link to Agent Navarro with a quick message. Happening now. Less than half an hour later, unmarked cars and FBI vans rolled down the block and swarmed the house. From my spot down the street, I watched federal agents escort Barrett and Trevor out in handcuffs. Then my phone rang. We've got them on tape discussing the fraud, the wire transfers, even the plan to sell under false pretenses, Agent Navarro said. We'll need a formal statement from you. You'll have it, I said. And, Mr. Cole, she hesitated, your wife just showed up. She's visibly upset. I looked down the road. There was Rachel, standing frozen in the front yard, hands clutched over her mouth as agents hauled boxes of files and electronics from inside our home, my home. What happens to her? I asked quietly. That depends, Navarro said. On what she knew. On what you want. I watched Rachel for a long moment. 13 years together. Some of those years had been good, before things fell apart, before she became someone I didn't recognize. I just want what's right, I said finally. Things moved fast after that. Both Trevor and Barrett took plea deals, flipping on each other and dragging a few others down with them. Turned out this whole thing stretched across 3 states, targeting military families, homes, benefits, pensions. Rachel swore up and down that she didn't know about the bigger scheme. Claimed Trevor convinced her I was hiding money, that I was planning to divorce her and leave her with nothing. Said the refinance was his idea, and she just went along. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. In the end, she signed a settlement. Full repayment of the stolen funds, no claim on the house, no share of my pension. She admitted to forging my name. In exchange, I didn't press charges. The divorce was finalized 6 months after that email from Kandahar. No fault. Clean cut. On the day the last piece of paperwork went through, I got a call from Agent Navarro. Trevor Miles was sentenced this morning, she said. 8 years, fraud, conspiracy, identity theft. Barrett got 12. Thanks, I said quietly. There's something else, she added. We found proof they pulled this scam on 11 other military families. Your case helped us connect the dots. Because of you, they might finally get justice. After we hung up, I sat on the porch of my rental apartment, watching the sun dip below the rooftops. My mind drifted to those other families, other soldiers who'd kissed their wives goodbye and flown off thinking their lives back home were safe, only to return to betrayal and empty houses. I hadn't set out to break up a fraud ring. I just wanted what was mine. But sometimes life takes you places you didn't mean to go. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. I never meant for things to end this way. I stared at it for a while. Then I put the phone down. There was nothing left to say. A year later, I sold the house. Couldn't stand to be inside it anymore. Too many shadows, too much history embedded in those walls. I took the money and bought a small cabin outside Missoula, Montana. 2 bedrooms. 10 acres. A creek out back that sings in the spring. No neighbors for miles. I took early retirement. 20 years in the Army. That was enough. I'd done my part. Given more than most. I got a dog. I named him Scout, a big, loyal German shepherd with more sense than most people I'd known. He followed me everywhere, always a few steps behind, always watching. I picked up carpentry jobs around the area. Nothing fancy, fixing porches, hanging drywall, building shelves. It kept my hands moving, kept my mind from drifting too far into the past. Between that and my pension, I got by just fine. Now and then, Rachel crossed my mind. Colin said she'd moved back to Oregon, her hometown. Found work at another dental office. Starting over, I suppose. I didn't hate her. Truth is, I didn't feel much of anything at all. She made her choices. I made mine. One evening, I got a letter postmarked from Fort Worth. It was from a woman I'd never met. Her husband was in the Navy, deployed overseas when Trevor and Barrett had tried the same scam on her. The FBI had passed my name along. You don't know me, she wrote. But you saved our home. Thank you for fighting back when it would have been easier to just walk away. I read the letter twice. Then I pinned it to my refrigerator with a bent old magnet shaped like Montana. And on days when the silence felt a little heavier than usual, or the memories crept in too sharp to ignore, I'd read it again, just to remind myself that something good had come from all of it. Last I heard, Trevor was still locked up. Barrett too. Turns out, sometimes the system does what it's supposed to. As for me, I kept going. Quiet days, slow mornings, one project at a time. I was building something now. Something honest. Something solid. Something that belonged to me and no one else. And this time, no one was going to take it away.